Hello, YouTube. I am not Bill Hurd. I'm just some random hobo he found at VCF. And welcome to the Coriolis Effect. What do you call it? A stream? A video cast? What's the terminology?
A webcast. Yeah.
Okay, webcast.
Live
yeah, okay.
webcast. Yeah. We're too lazy to do post-production.
It takes too long.
Absolutely.
Effort, you know.
Too much editing, too much disk space.
And too much self-conscious reflection and self-criticism and revision.
Right. So welcome, everybody. This is a VCF West post show. Hey, Ben, how you doing? Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good.
Doing all right.
Yeah. Wow. Was that a blast or what?
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Just such great speakers, and just to have, to see these famous historical people and just be able to talk to them casually is a great thing.
Oh, yeah. Joe Decor.
Yes.
You could talk heavy chip with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was great. That's great. And I mean, I'm like reviewing the videos now, and it's just like, it's really great.
Very cool. So who all did we have there? Do you remember? We had, Adrian Black couldn't make it. He got the COVID from Southeast.
Yeah.
Dave got COVID from West. So the guy,
shame.
yeah. But we had Leonard. Jerry kicked it off Friday morning and filled the place. It was excellent.
I'm sad I couldn't get off work on Friday. I really would have liked to have seen the first day.
Yeah. So it was a good, it was an excellent, we've never done a Friday, so we don't know how to compare it to Fridays, but it seemed to be as, comparable. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I told Eric not to worry to have a Friday show because VCF East has done a Friday show for the past 6 or 7 years. We expanded from Saturday, Sunday to a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I was like, you don't worry about it. People take a day off.
Yep. And if they ever do get the Sunday back, I'd recommend to them to keep doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday then.
Yeah, 3 days. I would be in favor of that.
Right. So we started off with Jerry talking about Jerry stuff. I think I introduced her, and it's really...
You did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It can be hard to introduce Jerry without using the word Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Because she just kind of sets that standard in the. But Jeff and I were exchanging emails after the event, and I realized I really wasn't. When I know the person on stage, I do a very short intro as if they're my friend, and I should be doing longer ones talking about all their accomplishments. So I want to get better at that part of it. So.
Yeah, that's something we're all working on. We're not like professional, to broadcasters or anything like that. So I think we're all learning as we go along.
Yeah.
Not only introducing people, but interviewing people. So I think we're just learning as we go along.
Right. So after Jerry, we had, was that you then, Ben, or who followed? There was a
No.
So after
Brian
Jerry
was next.
Byron Stout.
Byron.
Yep.
What can vintage computing tell about the next generation? So that was interesting, talking about how he's teaching Gen Z, Gen Alpha kids, and vintage computers and stuff like that. So it was interesting.
Cool.
Showing off your Taylor and Amy shirt.
My Taylor and Amy shirt, yes.
Are they watching us right now?
They're probably not. They probably are working folk, not like
that.
Yeah,
I do note Taylor and Amy in our Discord, though. I have seen them lurking.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's a total squirrel, but since you were showing the shirt,
right?
Well, we should get them on the show one of these days. They're interesting.
I thought about it, but again, I just assumed they'd be busy Fridays. Actually, I asked Macintosh Librarian, but she had to work today. But she would have been, good to. And she was a last minute addition and got an excellent table and had a real good show.
My goodness. And she was really, it was really nice having her on the panel discussion too. She had a lot to add and contribute. Very cool. I know you're not into apples, Bill, but
Tell you, I lost a lot of my resentment towards Apple.
She has a fabulous YouTube channel. What she's doing with the little Mac Classic, which I cut my first Pascal programming on those in high school. We went from BBC micros, and I was doing basic Acorn BBC micros, which they hold a special place in my heart, being 6502 based and whatnot. You know, British retro. I'm Australian, but Australia does a lot of things Britain does. You know, and then we went to Mac Classics that the school bought for high school, and I did Pascal, and that actually, I didn't know it at the time, but that served me years later getting my job at Altium, because Altium Designer was written in Delphi, which is object-oriented Pascal with a RAD tool, and their scripting language is Delphi, so it helped me really get on board quickly all those years later. Isn't that interesting? But
Pascal was actually the original development environment for the Mac back when you could actually develop on a Mac. You wrote Pascal on a Lisa and then shipped the code over serial to the Mac.
And I forgot to ask Dave this when he was presenting, but I really wish I'd asked him. I had read somewhere or heard from someone second or third hand that the first programming language for most of Windows 3 was Pascal, or maybe Windows version 1. And they later switched to C++. But yeah. So people poo-poo Pascal. It is actually a very powerful language. It just requires a lot of typing. So if you can type a million miles an hour, it's no problem.
Yeah, I have similar experience where I started with the Commodore 64 when I was like about 13 years old, and then when I went to Drexel, they require personal access to Macintoshes because they started it in '84, buying Macintoshes for all the students, or the students buying them. And then so I started with the SE30 because I figured, because the choice was Mac Classic, LC, and SE30. So as a programmer, I wanted the SE30 because it was faster. The LC was great because it had color, but the Classic was slow. It was just like slow. So I went to SE30, and I did Pascal. I did, I think, Lightspeed Pascal, I think. Something like that. So I started with Pascal. And the reason they chose Pascal as the introductory language was because it was structured. Don't jump into C where there's all kinds of debates about this years ago, where it's like, don't get into C where you're getting into all kinds of crazy topics all over the place. You should start out with something that's structured, and when you're beginning, and that's what we did, did Pascal for 3 semesters. So yeah, I remember.
Well, I tell you what, Arduino turned that whole notion on its head by embracing C++, no less, for teaching children how to program. But the way they did it addressed those issues, which were the common objections. So it was very considered and thoughtful of them to do it that way. But it proved to me, because I went around for decades saying, I'll program 8-bit microcontrollers in C, thank you very much, and occasionally assembly. I will never use C++. It's just, it doesn't lend itself to a tiny CPU that doesn't have a memory management unit. And Arduino completely changed my mind on that.
Yeah, I did a little bit of C, but it was on it was in Unix environment, probably a Sun workstation. It's kind of hard to remember now. Nowadays, I could actually know better what these machines were. And then I did take a class of assembly, 68,000 assembly, but I quit the course because I was already working on other courses, and but it was interesting.
Jeff, Ed64 is the first comment I've seen on the stream today where they actually responded to the joke.
Nice.
All right. So, Bill, do you want to keep going through?
Yeah, let's do that, and then I want to get y'all's impressions of the show in general. So after Byron, we had it was amazing. Curious Mark was there with his Apollo guidance computer stuff.
Yes.
So that was really Thursday night we got to go. Was it Thursday night? Yeah, Thursday night we got to go to Curious Mark's place and see it in his lab.
Yeah, he gave me and Bill. June was with us. Eric Schlepfer from the Open Circuits book author and various. Eric was co-presenting with the Apollo,
right?
Assisting. He had something to do with that as well, and was a bit involved. So, Mark was, and Ken. Ken was the other one co-presenting with Mark, like actually delivering details. Ken does a lot of reverse engineering. He's an absolute, both of them, they're absolute geniuses and extremely, this is something about VCF, right? You guys everyone watching who's never been to a VCF, if you just need an injection of kindness, you need to go to a VCF, because the kinds of people that go to VCF they really have to be amongst the most kind people you could possibly meet, right? They'll have heated debates and everything about Apple versus Commodore, right? No, not even. That one people judiciously steered clear of, while at least
around me,
whenever Bill was in the room. And I'm kind of kidding, but like they'll talk about life, the universe, and everything, and debate their philosophical things. But everything, I just have to say, I was truly impressed with the caliber of people and the kindness level I experienced there. It was very cathartic, and I left in a very, very good mood with a lot of dopamine. So.
Oh, I was going to say I had endorphin. Yeah, the dopamine hit was really good this time. Yeah.
I've often found when you have folks that are just really passionate about a topic, especially esoteric ones that we saw at VCF.
Yeah.
And you give them an opportunity. Yeah, you give them an opportunity to talk to people. That always just makes such a really fun energy.
It does.
It's always really pleasant to be around.
It does. I've had similar experiences at the occasional business conference, but not so much. But also sometimes amongst musicians, right? You get the same kind of. It's a similar thing when people are just super passionate about what they're doing, and they're there because they really want to be there, not because they're paid to, or it's their job, or
right. Right.
So, Jeff, you've gotten yourself tied up in this thing that's actually it's growing, it's big, and it's super cool. So sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. That was all because Curious Mark is such a nice guy and had Bill and I and some others over for pizza and beer.
You're right. It is growing. It's for me, it's always the idea of the festival. Festival is a celebration, having fun, learning things. Right. It's really it's a coming together of people, and once a year, and just it's really enjoyable. And yes, it's growing. VCF East was like phenomenal growth and then some guys approached me about doing a show in Texas, and they said yes. And so I met with the board, and now the VCF Southwest is rebooted after 9 or 10 years. And then the Vintnerd approached me at that show, and he said VCF SoCal. So he is starting to plan for that.
Yep, and that's great for me too. I'm in SoCal, so I did speak with them briefly at VCF West. You're reminding me I need to follow up. And
so it's where people are approaching us. There's even someone trying to do one in Ohio. So people are approaching us because we seem to be the ones that are very successful. We are the place to go. People know about us. We can help them. So VCF Southwest is like independent. They borrow our name. We help them with social media, but they run the event. They keep the money. They organize the whole thing. But we're sort of franchising all over the place, and it's growing, and that's great. And it's helpful to have. We've been wanting to one in Texas, and SoCal is great because that's far away. So plan it in different places where there isn't something close by, because some people don't want to drive more than 5 or 6 hours or something like that.
Yeah, that's a long drive for me.
Yeah.
Well, and Bill, you have something sort of similar coming up in Canada soon.
Me?
No, he posted something about a Canadian. There's a Canadian Commodore show, I believe, that you reposted. I think that's
World of Retro Computing.
There we go.
Is September 16th and 17th, and I'll be doing a remote with Dave Haney.
That's it. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, you'll be on the video.
I just have to keep banging Dave to make sure he knows what day of the week it is.
I would tune in, but I'll be at PCB West.
Okay.
That essentially, or on my way traveling up there for it. That starts on the 18th, so that'll be hectic. The week before that, I'll be panicking, getting all my slides together and everything, because I'm doing a 7-hour class on PCB antenna design. It's going to be fun.
Oh,
wow!
that's
deep magic
work. So what I remember from Curious Mark's place, other than the fantastic lab and all the things you see on the videos and stuff, he had these 2 very exotic bunny rabbits. And every time Mark would walk over to the cage, the 2 bunny rabbits would hop away from him and like get in a box to be away. And he'd have to walk across the room and they'd come back out. It was
It's like, what did you do?
And they're beautiful bunnies. You just can't hold it or anything. So very cool. So the next thing after the Apollo guidance computer was you, Ben. You want to tell us about your slot?
Was that me on that day? Yeah. So I got to interview Eric Schleffer and Wendell.
Yes. However you say it. Yeah.
Wendell Oskay, the authors of the Open Circuits book. We went through a bunch of actual photos. Some were not in the book. Some just that's it. And just talk about the process, what got them into it, some of their background information, and then going through some of the more intriguing images they managed to capture and what they reveal about how things are made. It's one of my favorite books. It's on the top of my coffee table. And it's like, it's there because I want other people to have at least some understanding of the complexities of what people like, electronics people like us can do, and why things are hard to do sometimes.
Was there anything that surprised you in the book or in the pictures they showed?
I don't know about surprised, but one of the most
interesting.
One of the most intriguing ones, which I really kind of started out with, was tuning fork crystals. They're just when you stop and realize, like, I mean, in college I learned about crystals and crystal oscillators and resonance and we read on paper, oh, this crystal has got this schematic symbol and this is what they look like, and what they are is essentially a very thin wafer of quartz or some ceramic, and it has a natural resonant frequency, and they have extremely high Q. So when you build an oscillator with them, or you could conceivably build a notch filter with them or whatever, but we use them for oscillators primarily. It's basically not going to drift off of that center of frequency, and but when you look inside a tuning fork and it looks just like a tuning fork, and you realize, I mean, we're actually using this is a multi-physics device. We're using mechanical properties of this device, to do an electrical job. And that's the cool thing about books like Open Circuits, where you're just getting inside of things. Yeah. One of the things that was also a little surprising, I suppose, was the cross section of a speaker, an audio speaker transducer. You know, with the cone and everything. I
wouldn't have thought of cutting one of those open. Yeah.
That to me, I realized that must have been very difficult to do without making a complete mess and not seeing anything useful. They had to epoxy the whole thing, and it took a long time because they had to get the epoxy to go in to fill every void. That's the hard thing. People don't realize you want to epoxy encase something so you can section it. It's super difficult to make sure there's no bubbles.
Right.
Like they ended up using they had a kind of a vacuum chamber.
Did they? Okay.
So,
yep.
Yeah. And so that's the other thing. Like, you don't realize how much effort goes into photography. Just brilliant guys. So that was that session. It was really cool.
Oh, what about the focus stacking? That was pretty cool.
I learned that. I did not ever know about that technique, not being a photographer and not having professional grade gear. I had an SLR which I could use for things like that, but I'll just say my somebody I know well took that from the house and is in possession of that. So yeah, focus stacking, like taking the same photo and making sure you keep everything perfectly still.
Right.
And adjusting focus, and then using software to combine the multiple photos of the same object. It kind of reminded me that the first ever laser was a ruby laser, and the thing they used it for was some kind of special photography using the laser light to light the photographed item.
Right.
And by doing it in just, I don't know what they did, but they managed to put every single item near and far in the photo they took in focus.
Right. Right.
Instead of the foreground is in focus and the background's fuzzy.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And Jerry was talking about her Tilt 5 glasses, and they do, actually it was Amy was telling me more about it, how they do focus stacking in the glasses instead of just shining a light right in your eye. You know, it's very cool.
Yeah, the tech's pretty amazing.
So after the open circuits, we had David Plummer from Windows. And that was really interesting. You know, to me, it's always like, people who do something and then a million people either benefit or feel the pain, right?
Mm-hmm. It's an example of something that I run across, unfortunately, more than I'd care to admit. I don't know if I've told any of you guys, but I'm one of those dreaded software engineer people. I know you don't generally.
You're a programmer?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I know you don't generally let those sort of folks on your show. So
the only way you're allowed on the show is lift your beard and show a Commodore logo.
Oh, of course. There
Okay. You're good.
I know where it is, but no, just the concept of, and I think the example that he used was the format disk dialog in Windows. Sometimes you make stuff and you go, yeah, well, this is fine for now, but we'll fix it later. And then later becomes 15 years ago.
Right.
It's like, it's good enough to ship and ship it. Let's go on to the next thing.
Right. Yeah. Anytime you have a speaker that can go, well, then Bill Gates said, you know, it's pretty unique. So yeah, he was really good. And I really liked meeting him and his wife as well. So yeah. He's got me kind of interested in addressable LEDs now. So I'm going to see how many I can string up around the house before the wife.
Before we like the Griswolds, you know, the Griswold.
Yeah.
the family, European.
Done. Yeah.
Additional improvement.
Bill, we need to talk about my addressable LED project as well. It's kind of my white whale, and it is utterly ridiculous.
Did you have a beard when you started the project?
It was probably a few beards ago. it was darker brown, put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know about what that is. So let's see. Adrian's asking if that was the infamous abort, retry, fail prompt we were talking about.
I want to say abort, retry, fail goes even further back to the MS-DOS and PC-DOS days. But no, I think the example was the format disk dialogue in
right.
Windows.
Right.
It's just like the little tall rectangular thing with like what size, what format, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Which they might have changed in 10 or 11. I'm not sure. But there's a lot of that old stuff still lurking, even in 11. you keep going back archaeologically and you see older and older levels of stuff. But it's not on DOS anymore, so that's good.
Cool. By the way, Jeff, everybody I'm talking about here today, my plan is to start spamming them to get them all out to East.
Yeah, so we definitely got to continue our conversation about like getting some speakers in. Like, now is a good time to start so people can make plans far in advance, so we can get another two round tables was worked out well. We'll have a Friday and Saturday round table, will be a good idea, and then speakers that we want to get there. It'll be great because it's always just seems to be like this fun thing.
Yeah. Well, I'd go so far as to say the round tables next time around don't need to be like webcaster round tables. They could be anything. Right.
I'm going to just call it round table.
Yep.
In the past, we've done round tables like for different topics. And so it doesn't matter. Just have a round table of people that are interesting or famous or both. And it'll be fun because, even the round table we had with these not well-known local YouTube webcasters, they were interesting and fun. You remember them, Sean and Michael Stanhope, and they were fun. But like most people didn't know about them. They're not like nationwide, but so you can have all kinds of different people on the round table,
Yeah, those guys were a blast because they all knew each other so well. So they knew right where at the one guy's apartment where the Mac is sitting on the floor or something. So very cool.
And where is VCF East?
So VCF East is in Wall Township, New Jersey. It's close to the Jersey Shore. It's right next to Belmar, which is right there on the Jersey Shore. And so it's part of, we've had it for many years, I guess since 2006 or so. We had it at the InfoAge Science and History Museums. So it's formerly Camp Evans. So it's a national historic monument. So it's a lot of Cold War research and development. They have the tanks. He likes the tanks. So they have multiple museums there now. So they have he was talking about the tanks. That's the military vehicles museums. They have 3 sections, and each section is about 7,000 square feet. And then there's some outside of it because they can't fit everything inside. So that's where it is. It's growing so much. We're like just having trouble keeping, it's too much. We're getting a lot of people. So we're doing the best we can, trying to reorganize the different buildings
Well, this year we officially annexed the Silver Ball Arcade, became part of the VCF East tour. So we were there a couple nights, I think.
Yeah, we've done that in the past. I'm glad that we revived that because sometimes it's just hard to organize that stuff. But now I find a simple way to organize something like that. And I even looked into it. We could actually rent out that hall, the Silver Ball. We could just rent it out, and I have to see what the cost is. But it was fun to like go to downtown Asbury Park, which is right on the shore. Silver Ball Arcade has pinballs, has retro video games, some rare ones like they have Computer Space,
right.
And there was like a Vector Battle Zone or something they had, and they're open all year round, but it's fun. Go to a restaurant, go to play video games, and I like the stories about Jerry playing the pinball with Usagi.
Usagi. Oh, we've shown videos here and stuff where they're throwing money at each other and stuff. It's pretty funny. So that would be, if you rent that hall, I would bet I could get Usagi and Jerry together for a rematch. That might be actually something to put in the brochure.
Oh, you should play that up. Get like a poster where they're advertising a boxing match, face to face, that kind of thing. Usagi, Ellsworth, the rematch.
Color them red and blue.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. They said it couldn't be done. So that was very cool, and the dinner was cool. That was a good restaurant.
Yeah. So it's just funny because I live right nearby here and I do a lot of Lyft driving, but I don't actually go to a lot of these restaurants. So it's nice to actually to go some of these restaurants and see what they're like.
Right.
So I think that'll be a good place to go to next year.
Cool. Cool.
And this time I'll make reservations in advance, so we're not waiting around.
Right. So jumping back to West, after the Windows War Stories, we had Oh Canada, What Did You Invent with Rob Carnegie.
Yes, that was interesting. Because I finished watching the video, and I actually was there in person when I saw it. There's a lot of things that I didn't know were invented in Canada. Like I knew about Nabu, so he got that towards the end of the presentation. But at the beginning, assembly language, there was like a woman who had created this first assembler. I'm like, wow, I did not know about that. The joystick, the trackball, these are like things that we use all the time.
It's so dark and cold up there. They needed to develop things to entertain themselves, and the rest of the world benefited.
It was a fun presentation. I liked it, and he put the little video about how the name Canada was created. And I'm like, that's fun.
Cool. So after that, we had modern tools for sprite animation with Byron Stout.
Yeah, Byron, he had done his same presentation at VCF East, but it's nice to have modern tools to develop themes and sprites, because it was just very difficult, I imagine, having it on the original equipment.
Just very time consuming. Basically, you would have had to. I see. This is the thing. I often wondered how game developers back in the day really did their stuff. Some of them who were basically kids who taught themselves how to program assembly language. Because I've read the history books, right? You read Hackers, Heroes of the Computer Revolution. You see it's on my shelf over there. That book there by Stephen Levy. It's one of my favorite books of all time, by the way. But there's stories in there of the 80s and how there were kids who basically started out as home computer enthusiasts who had early access and taught themselves stuff, and then wrote a game and then went to companies like Sierra,
right,
and were hired on the spot and given royalties and became millionaires within 3 years because they wrote a game that just really hit the spot and was very popular and performed well. And so you read that, but then you also realize, gosh, they must have not slept because of all the time it takes to transcribe a picture from graph paper with color pencils to your peek and poke codes, right? Like
count all the bits and everything together.
Yeah, it's like I'm sure that starting out they didn't have those tools, but then once professionals, working for a big software company, they were working on mainframes, like completely the opposite, and probably had some pretty powerful tools to work with.
Yeah.
I've often thought that if the developers back then for computer gaming, console gaming, could see the sort of tools that are available now, they would just lose their minds. I dabble a little bit in NES development, so another 6502 platform, and with the emulator Meson, it's an emulator. It's a debugger and disassembler. I can literally sit there and say, when the vertical retrace gets to this point, break point, and let me look at what the registers are and what the state of everything is. It's unbelievable, the stuff that you can do. And it's incredibly accurate to the original hardware. Same thing with things like CBM Studio. You have these tools that are out there that you can just, with way less effort that you used to have to put into it, you can make some really incredible stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, CBM Studio was the tool that Byron was. It was a practical session. It was really good. Like showing people. He walked through the actual whole process. We're going to make a sprite of a little character that's he's gonna do some walking on the screen, and the generation to basic code, and very, very useful.
Yeah, that's something similar we do at VCF East. We have a whole day dedicated just to that type of thing. So it's good to have some of those in there where it's more technical, and here you're doing this. It's enjoy it.
So after modern tools of sprite, by the way, Commodore 128 has sprite editor built in. 3 generations of animation machines with Joe DeCour. And Joe, I've been after him for a while. So, of course, the pandemic, is gone now, and supposedly gone. And for not most, but a lot of people, their experience starts with Atari and the Atari 2600. Well, there it was, right? There's Joe, and knowing the silicon stories of all of that laid the foundation for, my generation that went through. So it was great hearing Joe.
Yeah, and it was good that we sort of guided him towards like a mix of technical and stories, because the technical, the nerds are like, oh yeah, this thing in the line and going here, and then people are like, oh wow, went into a Sears and like I saw these kids playing this game and oh my god. So like the both sides is good because then appeals to a wider audience, and I think that should be a model for everybody. Honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So where did we go for dinner on Friday night? Was that the ramen place in the middle of the road?
Yes.
The ramen place. What is it called? Ramen something. I forget what it was. Yes.
It was delicious.
There was
we had pictures, by the way. Join our Discord. Where's our Discord at? Somebody want to jump in and tell them?
Oh.
Orioles dash effect. If you go here, the banner at the top, go to that URL. At the top of the page, there's an invite link.
Right.
Click on the link, join the Discord, and you'll get to see some of the pictures Bill and I and others will share after the event.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is a VCF channel Bill made in there, so that's where it'll be.
Right. So, yep, cool. So, let's see. Where did that night end up for me? After dinner, what did we do? Didn't we go to an arcade? That was Saturday night with Amy and Taylor and Amy.
Yeah, I didn't go to an arcade.
Oh, that was Southwest. I'm starting to get my VCF.
Yeah, we didn't. We went home to bed.
I think we all went.
I did.
I got a ride with June.
Yeah, that's right. We gave you a ride there.
Drops off somewhere at CHM. They dropped me off at my hotel, and then you went off with June and presumably go back to your hotel and go to sleep because it was a long day.
Yeah. It was late. We were at the restaurant till dark, and it was late by after 10, I think, when we left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which for me would have been after like 4 a.m. Yeah. So. So that was, it was only Friday, and it's like, wow, all the people we've met and stuff here. So kicking it off Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, current state of the Aquarius, Sean Harrington. So I have to admit, I didn't know what an Aquarius was.
Yeah, super, super interesting talk. They all were, but, super interesting about, the ones that don't go off are really interesting to me. The products that are super successful, they're great, that sell 35 million, those are super cool. But when you have something that's like, oh god, well, they shipped this thing and this was a colossal failure and they made 5,000 of them. Those are, and they made more than 5,000 Aquariuses, but those are the interesting stories to me. And that one was no exception. And like so many other retro communities, you know, software support, hardware support has coalesced around it, so you can expand them up just like you can all sorts of other machines. But very interesting stuff.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, Mattel made that, so that was like he went into like how Mattel made the handheld game. Yes, Mattel. There we go. So
I remember him doing something. Yeah,
Mattel Electronics. Yep.
Yeah.
They had the little handheld games first. It was like I still have some of those games. It was just like a football game, and that's how I learned my sevens times tables because of that game.
After that, we had early Commodore history with Leonard Tramiel and Dave McMurtry. Hopefully I got Dave's name right.
That was a fabulous session. Hearing from Leonard, who was actually there, the truth of who did what at Commodore, how the company started, the actual undisputable history from the son of the founder of the company.
Right.
Like you can't get it wrong. And he's a sharp guy with a sharp memory. And what was very nice was Bill and I had also the privilege of, he showed us, he'd just gotten a very nice automated telescope from a Kickstarter. Well, he's probably had it a few months, right?
A couple of years now, I think.
Yeah, a couple of years. But this telescope, so we went to his backyard for an evening. Just Bill and I. June, I think, was with us, and not sure. I think it was the three of us.
Yeah, there was four. Meh was his name.
Right. And Leonard kindly, even in the Bay Area where there's moisture in the air and everything, and foggy, not the greatest, but the DSP in this thing is incredible. We were looking at, he pointed it at a nebula first,
right?
And as long as it stays still, and it just it keeps accumulating. It keeps accumulating and then projects the image into an eyepiece using an OLED. And it was just amazing. So beautiful. So
I'm going to try and find one of those images here.
I've forgotten the name of that. It was a Kickstarter.
I've forgotten the name too, but I can also find that in an email.
A DSP telescope. Absolutely insane.
One of the super interesting things from Leonard's talk, I don't know if this was common knowledge or not, but if I pull my beard out of the way again, he told the story. Logo. He told the story of how this bit in the CDM logo, if you turn it one way, is the B in naval semaphore language, and if you turn it the other way, it's the M in semaphore. So it's CBM, Commodore Business Machines. I didn't know that. I thought that was amazing.
That was new to me as well. I'd never known that before either.
I always just thought it was, chicken lips.
and we walked around putting little eye dots on every Commodore logo that was in the building. Yeah.
So I see it in the Discord of VCF West. The picture that you took, that picture was you taking a picture of me taking a picture of everyone else.
Right.
So
and then Ben is sitting there between Joe Decor and Leonard Tramiel, smiling his ass off.
I'm like, I was like a pig in mud. It was great.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull those pictures up here I should have had them ready to go. So after, so we got to talk with Leonard up past midnight. I mean, just another, or close to midnight, just another great evening there in California.
I like to talk how that, Leonard would remember something, and then Dave would say, "Oh yeah, my research says this." Okay, and then Dave would say something. It's like, "This is what we think," and then Leonard would say, "No, that's not correct." So between the two of them, how to the truth of the matter, or remember things that you were forgotten.
Look, it says, I didn't realize how much misinformation had managed to get out there, and he made a point to me in a separate conversation, or he may have actually said this in the intro to his talk, but it's like there's an unfortunate thing about the modern era with mass media. If someone has an ability to transmit a message and make it a broadcast, like widely available, if they say a thing first and it's plausible, it often becomes automatic truth in people's minds, and they don't stop. And like, we don't have, and that's true, like psychologically we know this is one of the cognitive biases that's quite well known, and it's actually abused by con artists, right? But we have too much to think about. We don't need to spend all the extra cycles trying to validate and verify every bit of information that comes in. We don't have time for that.
Yeah, so it's critical thinking. So there's
and
not
it's
a lot of
right. And so what we know is that with Commodore history in particular, and it's probably similar with most companies out there, there's a lot of misinformation that's spread. There's a lot of people who have their own agendas, their own egos, or their own careers to support, or whatever. Who knows what their motivation might be? But if they come out and take credit or claim this or that, and their facts are wrong, but if they're the first ones to write a book about it or whatever, then people just tend to treat it as gospel, and it ain't. Right. And so it's really good to have, while we have these people willing to contribute and come to these events, it's great to hear from them directly and get the truth.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think even with the AI now, it's just like you see, it puts that information out, and then people thinks it's the truth, and it's not necessarily the truth. And
that's the other problem. Like, people are going to learn from ChatGPT or teach me this or that, and it's like, yeah, just remember it's sucking in everything, and garbage in still means garbage out.
Well, one of the things June was teaching me. By the way, here's a picture from that Saturday night. That's Leonard Trammell here on the left.
Yeah, I thought this was Friday night, but
Friday night. Ben Jordan here, or were Friday? Weren't we at?
That was Thursday. That was Thursday.
So what is time anyway?
Sitting next to Ben is Joe DeCoeur, who chip designer extraordinaire. Next to him is Ron Nicholson, who worked on the Amiga chipset. Down at the end of the table is Jerry Ellsworth, and hovering over Jerry is Jeff. And then we have June all the way on the right. I can't. Oh, and yeah, I see.
Also next to Jerry was you can just see his nose under. There. That's also. Mark from the UK. What's his channel name called again? He has a really good channel as well. I've got to bring. Why am my brain farting here? I'm going to look at my.
Because you're on a video live.
Yeah, it's because people are watching me.
Yeah, because people are. Because the universe exists. It's.
Man, there's a lot of crap in my history. It's embarrassing how much crap is in my history.
Well, that was the one thing with is Jerry. She's like, she couldn't find her talk from East that she was going to do. She's like, I can't find my slides. How hard is it to find in Google Drive to find something? It's like
Mike's electric stuff. It's Mike's from the UK.
Okay.
Mike's electric stuff. That was Mike's, and he gave us. It's on my desk in my home right now, but he gave us these little badges that just have a battery, a switch, and a bunch of flashing LEDs. And the whole point of it is they all start together, but they all have slightly different flash rates, so they end up being more random and looking like that little panel that's on R2-D2's face.
Right.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah.
So that pretty much takes us to the close. There was we had the Webcasters Roundtable. From now on, we'll just call it Roundtables. That was great. That was Mark, Curious Mark, Dave Plummer, Jerry Ellsworth, Adrian Black, Kate Fox, and June from Nibbles and Bites were with us. So that was fun. I'm trying to think. Yeah, we even had Mackie up there, right? For Macintosh Librarian, had a little stand for a little Macintosh.
Yeah,
so,
Mackie's spoken to the mic.
Yeah. Well, what it is Mackie is so non-threatening that I'm getting over this must kill the enemy, reflex I have. I just remember, Jack Trammell going, "Business is war," and it's like, okay, man, send me in.
Oh, and don't forget Al Alcorn's session before the roundtable.
Why don't I see that? Yeah,
you skipped a bunch actually.
I did. Yes, I did. So next was
Greg Birkin.
Greg Birkin. People keep asking if that's Greg Berlin. No, it is not.
And then, so that was interesting because Greg is talking and people are like, "Hey, is Al shown up yet?" And I was like, "No, he hasn't shown up." He's like, "Where is he? Does anybody have his phone number?"
Right.
Nobody. Who's his? Joe DeCoeur called him. He didn't answer, and like, oh my God, what's going to go on? So like, all right. So the Joe's like,
didn't we shift the order of something?
Yes, we had Bob Wellen do it.
Right, he stepped up
early. And then they finally said, "Oh, Al, he's coming." He thought he was going to be on at 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock or something like that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. It's like, so then, so Bob went on. Bob was, I guess worked at, you can tell him.
He worked it everywhere. Yeah. He came from Commodore, he actually started at Mark Williams, helped write Unix, came to Commodore twice, left us for Apple Newton, and then ended up as a fellow at Microsoft. So, yeah, really interesting guy, just lots of experience. Yep. He's one of those people, if you can get him talking, by the end of the night, you'll be smarter. If you can get him in a conversation. He's brilliant. So, yeah, I forgot we switched it up. No harm, no foul. Then we had Al Alcorn, who is always good, right? So,
yeah.
That was especially wild. Just hearing the description of just a bunch of kids that had no idea what they were doing, right. And I wonder, like, I don't want to like make it seem like what they did was small or easy or anything like that, because clearly it wasn't. But I wonder if it wasn't a little easier back then. Like they told the story of like walking into Sears Roebuck and saying, "Hey, we have this wooden prototype of a home Pong machine. Isn't that neat?" And they go, "Yeah, how many can you make?" And he goes, 75,000, just complete wag. And they go, "How about 150?" And he's like, "Done." And they go back to Sunnyvale, and they don't have a factory. They don't have case design. They still the home Pong is still a refrigerator sized pile of wire wrapped boards, and they're like, "All right, I guess we'll figure out how to manufacture stuff." And they did. It's like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you convince people you can do that? That's bonkers to me.
Well, the same thing still exists today in the Bay Area. That's why there's venture capital. But the way it works now, it's so people know it needs an army. But if you can prove you've got the orders, if you build the thing,
yeah. Maybe if you say you're doing AI or blockchain stuff, you can still get away with that sort of thing. And just throwing money out for that kind of stuff. But
yeah, just pay attention. You'll note that before long, every single company that exists is suddenly an AI. Oh, we're an AI company. Or we're this company and we're leveraging AI.
All products and network security are now designed by AI.
Yeah.
So, let's see. My favorite Al Alcorn story is where they said, well, it needs sound, so he just probed around on the board until he found a boop. ran a lead.
Just got a random train of pulses that sounded good.
Yeah.
The first chip tunes.
Yeah. So let's see. And that brought us up to How to Revive a Dead Open Source Project by Carson Holgate.
So Carson didn't actually show up. Carson also had gotten sick and could not.
Okay.
So it actually ended up being a good thing just because I don't know, one of them ran late, and then we had this whole Al's wasn't there, so we had to switch around. So it ended up being good because then the round table could finish and go as long as
and just relax. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And after that, though, we had an absolute blast with. Hang on. We had giving out the awards. They asked me to read them, and then Jerry would run up to him and bow and hand him an award and everything. It was
super nice.
Cool.
I wish I was there. I was like finishing up the front desk stuff.
Right.
Did anybody record that? Oh man,
I saw it on somebody else's video just earlier today. Be on the lookout for VCF 2023s.
All right, so I did see something pop up, and I put it into my playlist. So I'm going to take a look at that.
Yeah.
So just from the attendees' perspective, my only suggestion, Jeff, for next year is, can you maybe not have so many good panels? Because quite literally on Saturday, I got there at 10 o'clock and was in panels straight through, and then got to the end of the day and had to kind of speed run through the exhibit floor just as everybody was packing up, because everything was so good. I wanted to hear everybody.
Same for me.
The same problem happened before, maybe it was 3 years ago. Maybe it was 2 years ago. There was Stephen Edwards, who's like a professor in Columbia, and he's said the same thing. He's like, I have a complaint for you. There's too many good speakers. I didn't get a chance to see the exhibits. I'm like, okay, so next year we'll do less speakers. And then I didn't do less speakers. They did more. So
right.
That's definitely something I want to do with the schedule, is also to give the AV guys a break to lock in a lunch hour. But yes, that is true. It's something we had shifted from just doing one keynote per day to a whole day's worth of content.
Oh, right. Oh, I filled that schedule like Tetris. I mean, we had every damn thing filled at one point.
That's where I'm thinking, would people want to do 4 days?
Well, okay, so I'll throw out my VCF wish list here.
Yes.
I'd love to see you guys at all locations fix the bandwidth problem. So we can stream if we want to, but in addition to streaming if we want to, people in the hall could watch the speakers on their own devices, right? They don't have to. So, because I always worry that the exhibitors can't leave their tables.
Yeah.
And they're some of the coolest people. I'd love to see the speakers. So if they could just stand at their table and a couple TVs, have the speakers talk, or again, earbuds in your phone.
Yeah, because that's one thing, is that the exhibit rooms are very noisy. There, we could. I mean, I have tried to entertain, and to have different screens in the different rooms, and different things didn't happen for different reasons, and so we didn't get those screens up. But I did want to try to have a screen in each room, so at least you can see it.
Yeah.
It's possible we could have limited streaming. So it's something I'll think about and I'll look into. I understand.
I think you need the bandwidth first. When I asked about it at West, they just said crappy bandwidth,
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. We go to some place to rent it out, and everybody's using it.
We need to find those mobile hotspot providers that come in with MiFis and stuff.
They do exist.
Yeah. So then Sunday, you'd think VCF was over, but no.
Bonus VCF.
Yes, we all converged on on Jerry Ellsworth's Tilt 5 company. She makes augmented reality glasses, as you know, and we were there just all freaking day. Didn't leave till 10 o'clock that night.
Wow.
And then we went out for sushi. So we found sushi open at 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
I got to definitely come like a day earlier and leave a day later.
That's what I've started doing. Yeah.
I missed the sushi, and I wish I hadn't, but I had to get on the road. I was not staying another night, and I had to get home to San Diego, and was 7-hour drive. So
oh wow, well
I had to leave till 5. I stayed as long as I could. I left about 7, made it home. Left about 7:30, made it home about 2:30 a.m.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that late. It seemed like you left early. Like,
well, the sun was still up, yeah, but we're in daylight savings, so.
Oh yeah, so San Diego's another 2 hours from LA.
That's right.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, you'll be happy to have a VCF SoCal because then you'll be just 2 hours away.
So I've been asked to VCF Los Angeles, SoCal.
So VCF SoCal is going to be.
Okay. Tell us about that.
So when I was at VCF Southwest,
right,
I was actually interviewed him for 5 minutes. And
Vint?
Steve.
Yeah,
the Vint Nerd.
Right, that's it. Yes,
that's his YouTube channel. And he was like, "Hey, I was thinking about doing VCF, and like, how do we, create one of those things? How do we get, here's my card." And then he contacted me after the show, and I was like, "All right, so like, what do you want to do?" And he and his wife has some professional job where she just does this stuff for a living. She had this, PDF and with like analysis of all the other shows and like all this stuff. I'm like, wow, like these guys know better than us some things. So we had to with the board meeting and like, yes, do it. And they're like, great. So they're hoping to do it early 2024. That's
okay.
Short notice, but I think they can do it. So January or February, which makes that great because California, you can do stuff, whereas the rest of the country has winter. That's the great time of year to fit in here. So he's got different people organizing there and a lot of supports from different people that like, yeah, we want this because then you're going to also get the other states, Nevada and Arizona. You get those, Las Vegas and I guess Phoenix. They're going to have those, metro centers too, because so he's working on it. First thing you got to do is for me, you have to find a showrunner. So now we got a showrunner, we got volunteers, and then you got to find a place. So he's working on trying to get a place right now. He already has a poster up. He does have a website. What is it? VCF SoCal. I have to look it up. And so he's working on it.
Okay.
VCFSoCal.com. So VCF SoCal.com. So that where you can ask, be on the mailing list and get information as he starts to get it going. So it's great. They're going to be like independent. We're going to let franchise. They let them use the Vintage Computer Festival logo and Vintage Computer Federation. They're going to have their own organizers and everything, and it's going to be great. And once they find the date, I hope to go there. So then support them.
Cool.
It's really going to be. He's starting to get speakers and everything like that for it too.
Very good. Yeah. You just explained why he didn't talk a lot about it. Hang on, there he is again.
Yep. Sorry, technical difficulties. I'm back.
But that explains why he didn't say anything at Southwest, but then he said it at West. As between those two, he had decided to do it. It sounds like. Yeah,
so he found out how he got permission from the Vintage Computer Federation because we have the trademark for the Vintage Computer Festival.
Right.
So if anybody that wants to do it, they need to get permission for us. But since we're a nonprofit, we're nearly not going to charge you anything, and we'll give you an option. Like you want to be part of the federation managed one, or you want to manage it yourself and just like use the name and we'll plug you into so our social media and help you out. And they chose the second option, and that's great. And it makes it easier for us here. You worry about the headache parts and run the show, and it's good for everybody.
Right. We'll bring the electrons. So, very cool.
Well, LA's a super quick jaunt for me, so I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, and it's a perfect spot. It's metro area. We hope to, more people approach me or someone else. I mean, that was one of my intentions to go to all these different shows, is to be an emissary to help build up the vintage computer hobby.
Right.
Still growing. It's growing even more. You would imagine, it's after 40 plus years different. You would think it would die down. It's becoming more popular.
Right. Which is probably the internet, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you got the YouTube people, and then and it's amazing to see kids come into our museum, because VCF has a museum in Wall Township, to be interested in these retro computers, and you're like, why are they interested in these retro computers? Like, you got all these, Scratch and all these other things, and why are then they like to actually be able to have hands-on with things and to be manipulate things, and how, because even Minecraft was a kind of like a thing where it's a crude bitmap graphics. It was fun. Like, what kids like that. So it's different.
Easy to learn, hard to master.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, people aren't aging out. Kids are growing into it. They're having bits of nostalgia, whether it's through, I don't know if it's like Stranger Things and other like throwback shows and things like that, but they're experiencing nostalgia for things that they didn't experience the first time around.
Right. So, speaking of the internet, I've got a story that just happened like this morning, last night and this morning. We're on one of the Discords. By the way, join our Discord. From our Discord, you can find other Discords. So I was over on somebody else's Discord, and somebody said, well, my C128D was yours. I said, what? He goes, yeah, guy told me a story. This was yours. I'm like, you mean Josh? He goes, yeah, Josh. It's my C128D that I was given by Commodore. I gave it to my girlfriend's little brother 40 years ago.
Wow.
And a guy pops up with it yesterday, and he's sending it to me.
Oh my God.
Wow. So I'm going to have my original, and I mean, I didn't know it had an emotional attachment, but because it was with my girlfriend and everything in life back then, I got goosebumps when I thought about it coming home. Now,
does it have any identifying like holes drilled in it or hacks or weirdness? Or
it's a true plastic C128D
with
a keyboard that snaps under everything, and it works actually too, which I didn't. So, yeah, thank you, internet. Thank you, Snooky.
That's wild.
I still don't get handles, but
it's Sloopy, Snooky. Okay.
Yeah, you know him, I think.
All right, I might.
Yeah, I think he hangs out on Historical.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, up in Canada, he's got my original. So
wow.
How did it get to Canada?
Well, he bought it after 40 years. This young man went, and so he's not young anymore, I guess, but went to sell it on eBay and told him the story, and the story is perfectly correct. He showed me the story. So it's
Put it into the Bill Hurd Museum.
You can see I'm smiling thinking about it. So very cool. So I'll ask final questions, final impressions of VCF. John, you gave us good feedback as a viewer. Would you go again? Would you recommend people go to this silliness? Or
absolutely. It's just like Ben was saying before. It's such a really great positive vibe and environment. You get to see a bunch of interesting people, a bunch of interesting gear. I felt bad because I had gone in 2019, and of course in 2020 the world broke, and then the next couple of years I wasn't able to go because of conflicting events. So getting to kind of go back home and check that out was great, and it was wonderful how much it's grown in that time. So yeah, I could not recommend it more highly, either West or any of the other VCF events.
Yeah. And Jeff, what would you say? How was it from a VCF point of view?
It was very good. We returned to attendance levels that were pre-COVID, so it's back to 2019 levels, because 2020 was virtual. 2021 and 22 were a little bit lower, so it's back to those levels. It was just and we weren't even sure we're going to have a show because they had no room for us on Sundays. So we went to Friday, Saturday, so it was a lot of last minute figure out. But It went well. Consignment is always a hot spot, and we made out well with consignments because we shifted around. Last year in another room, and there were some technical problems. And this year, a lot less problems. We have a point of sale system that some guys here on the East have created that makes it easier to just put a barcode, scan it, and we had more than enough room. Before we usually run out of room, so now how we had it set up worked very well.
Right.
Consignments was well. We were able to get some food vendor in there. CHM they get overwhelmed with they have their food place down there. They run out of food. We did send out a survey, so lots of positive. One of the problems is parking, and that's something that you can't easily control, especially in California. There was a Microsoft building that they're building. They took some of our parking, so that's one thing we do have to figure out. But overall, it was a lot of positive feedback from the survey. Speakers worked well. We have to sort of get back in the groove and with volunteers shifting around and training, but it went well. And the videos, I'm reviewing them now. I'm through, I think, day one, and I'll start releasing them onto our YouTube channel. I still have some VCF East ones, but start releasing them one at a time, 1 week at a time, and so overall, it was really good. It was a lot of good things going on.
Excellent. And Ben, would you go to another one?
I was just saying before we started streaming, it's almost unbelievable that I haven't been going to them before. Once you've been to a VCF and you understand what it's like and the kinds of people and the camaraderie and all that stuff, it's like, yeah, absolutely.
So people, get to a VCF. When's our next VCF? Not counting SoCal, but East.
So they're the unaffiliated with us, but their partner organization is VCF Midwest. VCF.
Oh, I'm going to be there. Yes.
There's a VCF Midwest, and I'm going to be there too.
Cool.
That is September 9th and 10th. It's in the California area, so VCF Midwest. I'm making it happen because
it's in the Chicago area.
Yeah, so I think it's Elmhurst. It's outside of Chicago. Yeah. So VCF Midwest is the next event. After that, I'm going to World of Commodore, which is up in Toronto.
Right.
Then it would be SoCal if they're able to find a place. That would be January, February, and then after that would be VCF East in April. We're planning.
What days in April?
In April, we are doing the April 5th, 6th, and 7th. So I ordered good weather as well as after the show, those in a certain area will get a solar eclipse. I ordered a solar eclipse as a celebration on April 8th. Okay.
So you realize it's still New Jersey. It's still April.
No, I have magic. Literally at the last VCF, people said in the surrounding areas outside of us, there was torrential rainstorms. But we
drove through it. Mike and I did.
See, I told you I have magic. I have magic. I created a bubble around our area that prevented us from getting rain.
Do you work in marketing by any chance? So I mean, curing rainy days is really a hardware function. So stick to like your lane, So cool. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and I want to thank everybody that did go to a VCF or that's watching us today. And thank you, everybody that comes up and says hi. Thank you. These things are just wonderful.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So
very cool. Looking forward to the next one. Probably next one for me depends on the date and location, but will be most likely this SoCal.
And I'll be going to Midwest, but this will be my first VCF in 15 years where I'm not doing anything. I'm going just to hang out. So
that'll be nice.
yeah, sleep in, all those things. So very cool. I want to thank everybody again, and everybody have a safe and a happy weekend.
Yes.
Catch you later.